my great hero in racing is Tom Christensen, fellow Dane, the Mr. Le Mans, as they call it. The greatest endurance race in the world, the 24 Hours of Le Mans, has been won more times than any other by Tom Christensen. He won the race 9 times. So Tom just really turned me on to Le Mans. I've been watching Le Mans since, I think, the 80s. I have my earliest memories of watching that on TV. The race has been going since, I think, 20s. But in the 80s, I got kind of into it. And then in the late 90s, early 2000s, when Tom started winning, I, like pretty much every other Dane, started watching the race almost religiously. So I thought, you know what? I want to get to Le Mans. And this is the magic thing about racing, that if I get into basketball, like I can't set a realistic expectation that I'm going to play in the NBA, that I'm going to go to the finals. Or I get into tennis and I'm going to play at Wimbledon. That just doesn't happen. But racing is special in this way because it requires a fair amount of money to keep these cars running. It's really expensive. It's like having a small startup. You need to fly a bunch of people around the world and buy expensive equipment and so forth. So you need a bunch of capital. And I had some through the success of the company. So I could do it, which meant that I could get to Le Mans. So I set that as my goal. I want to get to Le Mans. And I started racing in real competition 2009. And 3 years later, in 2012, I was at the grid of Le Mans for the first time.
We should say, so Le Mans, 24-hour race, endurance. I mean, this is insane.
There are 3 drivers, mind you. So it's not like one guy just drive for 24 hours straight. But still, it's a pretty tough race, both physically and mentally, especially mentally. When you've been up for 24 plus hours, you're not quite as sharp as when you first wake up. And this is funny about Le Mans too. It starts at around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So you've already been up for half a day by the time the race starts. And then there's 24 hours to go before you're done. And you'll be in the car for anywhere from usually an hour and a half to a maximum of 4 hours. The regulations say 4 out of 6 is the max you can do. I've spent perhaps 2.5 hours in a single stint at Le Mans. It's pretty taxing. You're going 200 miles an hour into some of these turns. And there's another 60 cars on track. Whenever I'm in my normal category, which is the LMP2 category, I have GT cars, which are more like a Ferrari and a Porsche, that I have to overtake. And then I have these hypercars, which is the top class, that are overtaking me. So you got a lot going on. And you got to stay sharp for 2.5 hours straight to do that. That is just a guaranteed way to get incredible flow for long, long stretches of time. That's why you get addicted to it. That was why I got addicted.
You got to talk me through this video of you in these LMP2s.
Oh, yes.
This is such a cool, this is so cool.
Yeah, this was probably my favorite battle of my career.
Sure. And Heinemeier Hansson has beat past and fight.
Yeah, so this is me driving against Nico Müller at the Shanghai International Circuit.
You're on the outside here.
I'm on the outside in the blue and white.
This?
And we go a whole track around with basically a piece of paper between us. See, down this back straight, I get so close to him because I want to force him over on the other side of the track such that he can't just box me in. And we've been fighting already at this point for basically 40 minutes straight.
Mm-hmm.
I've been managing to keep this professional driver behind me for 40 minutes. And he finally passes me, but we just keep the battle on for the whole time. And it really just shows both these kinds of cars, the Le Mans prototypes. We don't actually ever touch. We get within about an inch, and keep going around the Shanghai circuit too.
How did you get so good? Like what? I mean, that's a fascinating story, right? That you are able to get so good.
I'm pretty good for the kind of driver I am, which is called a gentleman driver, which means I'm not a professional driver. And like many good gentleman drivers, when we're at our really best, we can be quite competitive with even professional drivers who've been doing this their whole life. The difference between us and the professionals is the professionals can do it every time, or more or less every time. So I can't be this good all the time. When everything is just right, I can be competitive with professional drivers. But that's not how you win championships. That's not how you get paid by factories to drive. You got to be good every time you go out. So that's a huge difference. But some of it was also just, I really put my mind to it. By the time I realized race cars is what I want to do as my serious hobby, I put in thousands of hours.
Have you crashed? What's the worst crash?
I've had a lot of crashes, but thankfully, knock on wood, I haven't had any crashes where I've gotten really seriously hurt.
Have you wrecked the car?
Oh, yes. I've wrecked many a car.
So what's that feel like? Just you wreck a car, like how do you get...
It feels like total shit if you're in a real race and other people depend on you. It's not even so much the car, although it's also sometimes that these cars are expensive to repair, and that sucks, and it feels so wasteful in a way when you crash some of these cars. But the sense that you're letting a team down. Endurance racing is a team sport. Not only do you have your mechanics, you usually have co-drivers. So when I crash, I just feel like, damn it, I could have avoided this.
Yeah, but also you could have died.
Do you know what's funny? I never think about that. I don't think you can, because I think the moment you start thinking about being able to die, you can't do it. You can't go fast.
Well, I'm sure, not to go all Carl Jung and Freud here, but I'm sure that's always present in the back of your mind somewhere. You're not just bringing it to the surface.
It is, in the sense that it's part of the appeal. It's part of the sense that there's something on the line, that this isn't just virtual. I can't just hit reset, restart, reboot. If I crash this car, we're going to be out, or we're going to be disadvantaged, or it's going to get destroyed, or I might get hurt. I've gotten lightly hurt a few times. I actually had, the year we won 24 Hours of Le Mans in our class, I'd been training in this Formula 3.5 car. It's a really fast car. It's a really nice exercise to do, but it doesn't have power steering. So some of these race cars, especially the open seaters, they don't have power steering, which means that the steering wheel is basically directly connected to the front wheels. So if you crash one of those cars and the front wheels suddenly turn, you're really going to hurt your hands if you don't get your hands off the wheel. I hadn't raced enough of those cars to know that I had to get, or to have developed the instinct that I had to get my hands off the wheel. So I didn't. And I really hurt my hand. And this was just, I think, a month before the 24 Hours of Le Mans. So I thought, oh man, I'm going to have to miss it this year. I had not a cast, it was just seriously sprained. And then somehow, miraculously, like a week before the event, I was like, oh yeah, actually it's okay now. So got to do it. And that would have been grave regret if I would have seen my team go on to win the race and I would have to sit on the sidelines. But I really have been quite fortunate in the sense that most of my crashes have just been expensive or sporting inconvenient. They've never been something where I got seriously hurt. But I've seen plenty of people who have. In fact, my co-driver this year, and for several years, Petro Fittipaldi, drove a race car at Spa. Spa is one of the great race tracks of all time, and it has this iconic corner called Eau Rouge, which is probably the most famous corner in all of motorsports. That has a great compression before you climb uphill. It's an extremely fast, very difficult corner. And just as he does the compression, his car basically sets out and he loses his power steering and he drives straight into the wall and breaks both his legs and basically faced the prospect that maybe his career was over. I've had other teammates and people I know have serious injuries that's really hurt them. And yet what's funny, as you say, you'd think that would sink in. The year before we won in 2014, that same car had a Danish driver in it at Le Mans, at the race I was driving, who died. He lost control of the car when there was a bit of rain on the track, and the track was unfortunately designed in such a poor way that there was a very big tree right behind the railing, and he hit that tree at full speed, pulled 90 Gs, and was dead on the spot, which was just such an extremely awful experience to go through. I finished second that year, which should have been cause for a bunch of celebration, but it was just tainted by the fact that not only did a driver die, a fellow Dane died, a guy I knew died. That was pretty tough.
So that throw that into the pile of the things that have to be considered is the weather conditions, like you mentioned, of the track, whether it's dry or wet.
It's a huge part of it. Even just last year at Le Mans, it was raining and I was out, and I hadn't made a serious mistake at the 24 Hours of Le Mans since I did the first race in 2012, where I put it in the sand trap with like 4 hours to go. And we lost a couple of laps getting pulled out, but it didn't actually change anything for our result because that was just how the field was spread out. I'd made minor mistakes over the years, but nothing that really set us out. And at the race last year, when it was raining, I first clobbered a Ford Mustang when I made an overambitious pass on a damp part of the track and couldn't stop in time. And then felt absolutely awful as I sat in the gravel pit for 2 laps and knew that our race was over. A race where we were highly competitive. You're not blessed with a competitive car, a competitive team, and a competitive setup every year. I know how rare that is. So to know that we had had a chance that year and I sort of squandered it felt really bad. But that got compounded when I got back on track, barely made it another stint, and then put it in the gravel trap again when it started raining on the entrance into Porsche. So this is part of why racing is so addicting too, because the highs are very, very high. When you win a race like the 24 Hours of Le Mans, it feels just incredible. There's so much emotion. But if you fuck it up, the lows are very, very low.